Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Heart Health Bootcamp. We are chatting with Dr. Joel today about all of your frequently asked questions. Hi, Dr. Joel. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. Hi.
So let's start. We've got a whole bunch of questions here. So the first one is, where do you get your protein? Aren't you worried about being protein deficient, Mr. Vegan Doctor Cardiologist?
Well, everybody, I'm just going to apologize for a minute. I'm going to go puke in my garbage can for the 14th time this morning. I've heard that question from patients, but no disrespect to you, Rena. It is indeed almost comical in the frequency it gets asked, how many comedy strips and memes there are about it. Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your chemotherapy is a good answer back. Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your bypass? That's another good answer. Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your Viagra? That's one of my favorites. Okay. So, the best science has recently appeared about need for protein in the majority of people until maybe age 70. And that's a series of data between Harvard and USC in LA, and predominantly a scientist, Dr. Longo, who's the world's leading expert on longevity and aging. And actually, if you want to keep youthful skin, and actually if you want to age your body a little slower, you actually go low protein. This is not me. This is Nobel Prize nominated scientists. This is published in the premier journals in 2016. Eating a lower protein diet, protein particularly from animal sources, meat, chicken, eggs, dairy, activates pathways. We know the biochemistry. They're called mTOR, being fancy. They're called pKa. They're pathways that accelerate aging in every cell in your body. And when you're packing in grilled chicken and you're packing in red beef and you're packing in cheese because you need that protein because you heard somebody say it at the gym, at the CrossFit, at wherever, you're actually accelerating aging pathways. It may not be true from plant protein. The study suggests it isn't, from beans, from peas, from greens, from nuts, from seeds. But it's true. The amino acids in animal products, particularly leucine, an amino acid found much more concentrated in meat than it is in plants, accelerates and activates aging pathways. So you might hear 0.8 grams per kilogram. Well, Dr. Longo recommends 0.3 to 0.4, half of that, until you're maybe about 70. And when you get to be 70, you want to maintain. You don't want to be a skinny 75-year-old. You want to be a comfortable 75-year-old. You don't want to be a protein deficient 75-year-old. You want to be a protein adequate or even replete. So he talks about shifting the diet to include more protein dense foods like beans and legumes and such as you get 70 plus. But before that, you're better off. So, really, where do you get your protein? My answer is why? Why do you want it to the excess that the American public has been sold a bill of goods? It's all science. It's not opinion about where to go. So enjoy your complex carbs. Enjoy your healthy fats, nuts, seeds, avocados, and olives. But keep particularly your animal-based proteins low, and you will be younger, more vibrant, and hopefully healthier when you're 100.
What about dairy? To what extent do I have to give up dairy to be heart healthy?
Yeah, so there's medical issues like people have bloat and lactose intolerance, acne, arthritis, and you certainly, the traditional paleo diet threw dairy out the door.
Right.
The plant-based world throws dairy out the door. Usually a ketogenic group throw dairy out the door. Suddenly, all of a sudden, seems like goat cheese, goat milk, and butters come back because things change. But it's not because there's new science. I think it's just things change. People are getting tired of going without that stuff. There are, number one, everything that's dairy has a non-dairy substitute now, whether it's plant-based butter, plant-based ice cream, plant-based yogurt, plant-based cheese, plant-based coffee creamer. Not always exquisitely healthy, but if dairy is upsetting your stomach, don't feel left out. You've got a substitute. Dairy is gray in terms of health disadvantage or neutral. It may be the fermented dairy, like kefir, like fermented dairy, like no added sugar yogurt, may be neutral to even healthy in traditional cultures. There are some long-lived populations that do a lot of fermented dairy, but that's not with the blueberry jam at the bottom, and that's not with the added sugar and fructose, and that's not really even just drinking milk 8 glasses a day. Harvard School of Public Health said in 2011, throw that milk away and put in water, tea, and black coffee, and you'll be a healthier human. And it's not a vegan, university. It's a very advanced academic university.
How about gluten?
I love gluten. Now, of course, we don't eat gluten. Although if you eat pizza, the wheat of pizza crust is usually, if you look at a bag ever in a restaurant, it's high gluten wheat flour because it's stickier and it stays together better to make pizza crust. So gluten is one of the proteins contained within wheat. But for most of us, and now I'm going to refer to another scientist. They're all Italian, these scientists. Dr. Fasano at Harvard, who's head of the pediatric GI unit. But he's one of the world's leading experts on celiac and gluten and a chemical called zonulin that disrupts your GI tract. Mm-hmm. I've had dinner with him, and he eats bread out of the basket at an Italian restaurant. He's a good Italian from Naples. And he says, 1% of us are celiac. Of course not. We're not going to eat gluten-containing foods. 5% of us may be sensitive, may get a rash, get a headache, don't feel good. 94 to 95% of us can eat 100% whole grains and enjoy the incredible benefits of lower blood sugar, less risk of diabetes, less risk of heart disease, less risk of cancer, less risk of obesity by packing your diet full of 100% whole grains, including 100% whole wheat breads, rich, thick, dark breads like Ezekiel bread. They're undoubtedly worldwide associated with health. And there are some downsides to adopting a gluten-free diet prematurely. They're very often rice-based substitutes, very often very high in arsenic, higher glycemic index, and your blood sugar goes crazy. So a gluten-free bagel is not a better bagel. I don't think there's really good bagel, but if you could find 100% whole wheat bagel and you don't have a 5% problem, you're better off eating that.
That's good to know. That's good to know. What about things like legumes and lentils and beans that come under attack sometimes from diets like the Whole 360, where
they can kill you. They can kill you. Yeah, there's another book out called The Plant Paradox that does say eating 5 kidney beans can kill you, which is the biggest pile of poop ever said by an MD in the United States. It's wrong. It's not true. You might get an upset stomach if you ate raw kidney beans. You're not going to die. Nobody's ever died. But you can say it on national TV and get a lot of media attention. So again, it's interesting. If you want to live to be 100, active, good brain, good health, don't have hip replacements, don't have cancer, you study people that live to 100 in good health. Those are called the 5 blue zones, areas of longevity, areas of centenarian excess. The only food group that all 5 blue zones have in common is legumes. So if you want to live to 100, you have to eat them. You have to eat beans, peas, lentils, and such, because that's what's found in Okinawa, Sardinia, Greece, Costa Rica, and Loma Linda. So it's like so farcical to argue these are bad for our health because there's chemicals that are out there to protect themselves against insects, and we must be just very large insects, and we're going to also get sick like a praying mantis might get sick. It's the biggest bunk in the world. Nobody knows the number. If you say like gluten, are 2, 3, 4% of people sensitive to the lectins in legumes? It might be that number. There's no easy way to know. If I had rip-roaring arthritis, I might go lectin legume-free for 3, 4, 5 weeks and see how I felt. That's reasonable. But if you're just looking for health, everything you can do to put beans instead of beef, you will be a healthier human being. Now, I like organic. I want cans that don't have BPA lining. So I'm a snob about my beans and my lentils in cans, but nonetheless, they're great choices.
I'm an even bigger snob. I buy organic chickpeas and I soak them. I sprout them for 3 days.
Oh, nice.
Coming out, and then I cook them. So yeah. I agree. I think there's ways to make the beans and the legumes a little more digestible. Like in my case, it's just hard to digest some of this stuff, and it becomes so much more easier to digest. What about corn and soy? Where are you on that?
Yeah, corn is a great food that Monsanto has destroyed because over 90% of all corn is genetically modified, and I'm not a big fan of putting little virus particles in my body. So I seek out now organic corn and I eat it. Whole corn on the cob, absolutely great thing. There's an amazing book out there by the comedian magician Penn Jillette about how he lost over 100 pounds rapidly and has maintained it. And he praises corn, whole corn, as one of those food groups, a very high complex carb diet that he ate then and still eats. It just struck me how he actually lost lots of weight eating corn.
Hey.
And then soy, the great divide, soy, again, another crop, largely genetically modified thanks to Monsanto and Roundup, but you can buy organic soy milk, soy tofu, soy edamame, soy tempeh. And again, traditional cultures eating soy as a meat substitute flourish, less diabetes, less heart disease, less obesity. Recent data in 2016, women that regularly eat some soy products develop breast cancer less often. Women that have had breast cancer either have a survival advantage or at least neutral if soy is in their diet, because they're blocking real animal estrogen with the very, very weak plant-based estrogens in soy. So I'm all for using soy as a condiment to a stir fry, a salad, a bowl, a macro bowl. It adds, soy has the advantage, has all 20 amino acids, the essential, the non-essential. And it just makes it easy to know your diet is nutritionally complete, though you don't really have to worry about it.
Do you also recommend sprouted soy, excuse me, instead of just the regular soy that comes in a pack?
Well, I would only buy organic soy, but if you can find sprouted, it has extra nutrient benefits without a doubt.
Okay. People, they have nice organic sprouted soy. Any other question that you get, Dr. Joel, that you get asked a lot that we should cover?
Oh, isn't heart disease due to sugar, not saturated fat? And the answer is it's both. And the answer is we eat too much of both. And we eat 700-800 calories a day more than we did in 1970, according to USDA. And most of those calories, at least average American, are processed foods in boxes and bags through a drive-in window, convenience, rush. So we want to be very careful about added sugars. It's not always going to say sugar. It might say fructose, might say maltodextrin, might say corn syrup, might say rice syrup. And you do want to avoid as much as reasonable added sugars in the diet. Enjoy fruit. 2, 3, 4 pieces of fruit a day is always a nice choice. But it's also animal saturated fat. We have not lost our focus that butter, that lard, that animal meats, bacon, processed meats are associated with increased risk of both heart disease and, in terms of processed red meats, cancer, without a doubt. So we want to go back to eating whole foods, close to nature, locally sourced. A lot of water, tea, and coffee is our main liquid.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Dr. Joel. And for the rest of you, stay tuned in to the next set of videos and hope you're enjoying the Heart Health Bootcamp. We'll see you soon.